Okay, that goes there, that goes there, that goes there. Nice, clean workshop. Hey guys, Martin here with my own two hands and a series of new projects because I'm into resin casting now. And resin casting is a way of replicating objects, making prototypes of products and even a low batch production. And you might say, well, 3D printing is not enough for you, Martin, eh? Well, yes, it's not enough. And no, it's not enough. Because with 3D printing, I'm limited to the size of the 3D printer, but that's okay. But my biggest feud is the mechanical properties of the 3D printed object. If you have something with very thin walls, it is brittle, it will break. And the second thing, which I don't like about 3D printing, is the surface finish, because if you want some production part, you need to sand it, you need to prime it, you need to paint it, just to give it some nice look. So resin casting is a way how to walk around that, because you are able to do a quick castings of big objects with superb finishes. Take for example, wait a minute. Take for example this. This is a thin, silky, smooth, translucent acrylic, and if you would like to 3D print this, well then good luck. But with resin casting, yeah, it's definitely doable. But you need the tools. Let's go over there. This is a vacuum pot. You put stuff in it, turn this thing on, and it will suck the air out of it. Now, with resin casting, you are heavily relying on silicon and polyurethane. When you are mixing them, you are introducing bubbles into the mixture, and that will compromise the quality of the cast. But you can put the mixture into the vacuum pot and suck the bubbles out, and you're good to go. But then comes the pouring of the mixture into the mold, and again you can trap some air in the crevices of the complicated mold. Now, why don't we just put the mold inside a vacuum pot as well? Well, that's one way. The big companies do that, and it's called vacuum casting, and you need this big machine size of this room and you can put everything inside. And it's not a way for average Joe maker like we are. But if you put the mold under the pressure, you can actually crush these bubbles to a very small size and maybe eventually dissolving back into the resin. That's where the pressure tank comes in. That's where the pressure tank comes in. Oh, Jesus. We rehearsed this, come on. Well, this lump of steel is an old air cleaning unit, and we are going to rebuild it into a pressure tank. And we need to put stuff inside easily, let some pressurized air in safely, and then release the air out safely again. So there's a bit of a work on this, so let's switch to a time lapse where I will go about the whole process. So first I have to get rid of all the fittings. There are 5 ports for different purposes. For example, this small M10 valve for draining the tank. And on the lid there is a left-handed M20 manometer thread, which you can recognize by the notches on the nut. So lefty tidy, righty loosey. On the side there are 2 caps for 2-inch threads pipe, and someday someone has to explain me why 2-inch thread isn't 2 inches in diameter. The bottom pipe was an inlet for dirty air and it was full of grime. The top cap was pretty stuck, so I had to use the pipe extension trick, and thankfully my newly acquired Knipex Cobra XL pliers can withstand such abuse. Beautiful tool, I highly recommend it. Then it's time to remove the lid, and it is held by 6 M20 screws, and those are pretty beefy fasteners. Okay, so I'm about to open this up. It hasn't been opened probably for more than 30 years. and I don't know what to expect inside. I would think that there would be some sort of a sorbent that will catch the oil, but yeah, let's take a look. Okay, so we have some sort of a mesh. Oh, Jesus. That looks like... I really hope that's not a human hair. That's like a horse hair. Oh, that's disgusting. That's really disgusting. Okay. Let's pull this out. Wow, that's disgusting. And inside we have another mesh. Yeah, these are the two inlet holes. So like one is inlet. This is probably the inlet. This is the outlet, or maybe it's the other way around. And there is a tube down there for sucking the remnants of oil. Okay, let's hope that the most disgusting part is behind us, and I put the pressure tank in the orientation in which I will be using this, because the idea is that I will put some sort of a shelf inside, so I have much more horizontal space where I can put the molds and stuff that I will be heating inside. But first I need to get rid of all the attachments and fittings and sort of things inside, so I will be cutting these off. And yeah, look at this thickness. It's like 6 millimeters, maybe quarter of an inch. It's crazy. I need to grind this off because I have no other way of getting inside there. But the bottom is full of like oil remnants, so I think it's a better idea to clean it first to not have any combustion. Well, let's get to it. I dissolve the grime with some ethanol-based cleaner and wipe it clean and let it vapor out, because the vapor can combust even more easily. And then it's a grinding time. I'm using my small 115mm grinder and pretty quickly run into the not enough depth of cut issue. So I resolve to cutting the small stuff inside, the supports for the mesh divider and the drain pipe. Then I grind the remaining stubs, and the segmented grinding wheel creates very nice effect. The rest of the pipes is job for my big 230mm grinder, and that goes through the metal like through butter. Cutting inside of the tank is one of the scarier jobs, and I have a respect borderlined by fear to the big grinder. And in the heat of the moment I cut through the rim where the lid seal is. So next is the welding session, interrupted by cleaning and more welding and so on. And I even had to use the bent electrode trick to get to the rim from inside of the tank. And yes, grinder and paint makes me welder I ain't. Okay, so the pressure tank is really coming together, and one of the last things I have to do is to replace the old seal. And I have some 31 Shore A hardness silicone. This is, I think, way softer than I would need, so let's try that, and yeah, I can always replace it if it won't work. The silicone is 2-compound liquid, and it is recommended to stir both parts thoroughly before mixing, and of course using clean spatula for each part. The silicone is Moldstar 31T from Smooth On, and the mixing ratio is 1:1 by weight or volume, so I'm using my precise scale. The pot life is 5 minutes, and you need to mix it thoroughly in that time. Using a flat end spatula and flat bottom container is highly recommended, so you can get everything mixed up. The pouring is relatively simple, and the viscosity is low enough so the silicone levels itself in the groove. Just keep steady hand and you can go around 2 times. I miscalculated the needed amount and had to scrape really hard to get every possible drop from the container. The workshop is cold, so I put heater next to it and it cured in about 45 minutes. This silicone is translucent and yeah, looks quite nice. During the curing I focused on the new fittings. Both of the 2-inch side pipes needed to be closed and I'm putting a Teflon thread on the threads. I find it much easier to work with as opposed to Teflon tape, which is very soft and thin. The caps and the rest of the fittings are brass and yes, I could use the metal ones, but I have something else in mind with these caps in the future. The center lead stub is where I want to connect everything else. It is 3/4 inch thread and I'm reducing it to 1/2 inch, solely because all the other fittings and valves are just smaller and cheaper. This crosspiece is for connecting inlet and outlet valves and manometer. Starting with the outlet valve, it is standard fitting, nothing special about it, and if I remember correctly it goes up to 16 bars, which is plenty enough. Releasing pressurized air from the tank is better through a muffler, because it can make a hell of a noise. And this is just a simple brass muffler, nothing to it. The inlet valve is the same as the outlet one, and I will use a quick connect hose from the compressor, and this is the appliance side of the couple. The female part on the hose has a checker valve, but the male part doesn't, so to be safe I'm adding additional checker valve in between. That way, if I disconnect the hose and accidentally leave the inlet valve open, no air will come out of the tank. Last part on the crosspiece is manometer. This one has 1/4 inch connection, so I need to reduce it again, and the manometer itself goes up to 10 bars. The tank itself is rated to 7 bars and I will use it in a range of 3 to 4 bars, so it should be safe. But to be extra safe, I am adding a safety valve. That's a device which releases air out of the tank if the pressure inside goes over a set value. I will set it to something like 15 bars. Okay, the silicone seal has cured and it came out really nice. The hardness is just okay, and this being my first silicone pour, it came out quite nice. There is a little bit of wrinkling here and there, but I think that's okay. So let's test that. Okay, doesn't wobble. That means it's sort of a flat or on the same plane with the rim of the lid. So that looks nice. And the last thing to do is to sort out these screw attachments, because the original way was just using one screw and one nut, and you sort of tighten this like that. I don't like that solution because I need 2 tools to tighten this, and it will be under the whole tank will be under the table, so I won't have that much space to do so. So my idea is to replace the original bolt with the full threaded one and fix the bolt to the bottom of the... Oh, you can't see me. And fix the bolt to the bottom of the tank, so it will be fixed all the time, and then I will need just one nut to tighten the lid, and I don't have to hold the bottom screw. So let's do that. And this is pretty straightforward. The screw is held in place by 2 self-locking nuts. With only one nut, the screw would get loose over time. First I'm putting all screws on, but leaving them loose, then put the lid on and try to pre-tighten the screws so that they are centered in the holes of the lid. That way the lid should be easy to take off and put back on. Then I'm tightening the screws and testing whether the lid is still loose. And jumping straight into a pressure test. I pressurized the tank to something like 1.5 bars. And I'm using soapy water to test the connections. The bubbles reveal a bad seal, so I have to redo some of them. Then I'm proceeding with the full pressure test. it is good idea to fill the tank with something hard to compress like an oil or water. So I fill the tank to the brim with water and only couple of liters under the lid will get filled by air. That way there will be much less energy stored in the form of compressed air and the possible explosion shouldn't be that devastating. And this is no joke, be safe people. I pressurized the tank to 3 bars and even after 15 minutes it looks like it holds nicely. Okay guys, it's done. Let's take a look. So right now this is pressurized to 4 bars. It is like that for 15 minutes and the pressure is holding. There is a little bit of leakage under here, under these big caps, but that doesn't matter to me that much because I'm going to take them off and redo them anyway, because this video is actually the first part of possibly 3-part series, and the second part is to add heating to this pressure tank, because the silicons and the polyurethanes needs curing under a room temperature, and I'm pretty sure that the manufacturer didn't mean my room temperature, because it is like down here it is like 5 degrees Celsius right now. So I need to be able to heat this up to 40 to 50 degrees just to help the cure time, lower the cure time in general, because I think I will need a bigger output from this pressure tank. So part 1 done. Major success. I wasn't sure if I will be able to pull this off and I need to reseal everything, and the silicone seal works very nice, so I'm pretty pleased with this one. But the next video will be about the heating. I have the heating element and I have some idea about some very overcomplicated thermostat, because I'm building that. So yeah, let's wait for the part 2. Bye! But before you go, let me introduce you to my Patreon page, where I'm frequently posting videos called shop updates. Those are short videos from the workshop just to show you what I'm currently working on and what you can enjoy in the future in the large videos. You can ask me anything there, I will be more than happy to reply to you. And if you decide to become my Patreon, your name will end up on the wall, so you can see yourself throughout all my videos. Thanks!